So the purpose of this review is to look at the EQA 250. I've just driven that recently. Possibly you've seen that video already. And also to look critically the differences between the EQA and the EQC from the perspective of what I've seen so far. I don't think it's very fair, basically, to compare EQA with EQC. I don't think it's fair because I think the price range just tells you everything that you need to know. Because over 25,000 difference regarding their prices. So, but what I want to say is that the EQA 250 is a nice car to drive by all standards. I know it's got a lot of bad reviews because a lot of journalists, car journalists, were actually comparing it to cars like e-tron, Audi e-tron, and even Audi I-Pace. They're about 25,000 more expensive. So you have some car journalists that don't actually like Mercedes to start with, and it's just very harsh the way they review the EQA, especially until I drove the EQA, and it's just not founded, some of the claims. Of course, they appreciate the layout, the interior quality that we've known to be associated with Mercedes. But what that car stands for is much more than what a lot of people have been talking about. The EQA is just, of course, a heavier car, about 2 tons. But it drives as though it's not heavy. The simplicity is very, very clear. And I test drove the car on rough roads and also on motorways. And it's just very pleasant to drive. 8.9 seconds to do between 0 to 60 miles per hour. No, it's not super quick, but it's not slow either. It actually doesn't drive as if it's 8.9 seconds, and I can't see any reasonable family person who is motivated by speed to the extent that you break the speed limit or you want to burn your tires very quickly by having a speedy start all the time. So in the real world, this is a nice car to drive. Now, they compare the EQA to cars like Skoda and Jag, which I've driven also, and ID4, which I also test drove. But what is interesting is that I test drove the Jag and the ID4, and what I could say is that the ID4, I don't like it at all. The Jag wins it when it comes to just the way it looks, and with regards to the way it drives as well, depending on the battery capacity that you choose. But looking at all-rounders regarding how you makes you feel, the brand, you still be tending towards the EQA 250 unless you need a lot of rooms. I'm sure the Skoda and Jag is more roomy in that respect, but that's not a lot in between those cars. With regards to the build quality, the EQA 250 trumps it. Regarding the badge, I would rather be driving a Mercedes than driving a Skoda. By the way, please, if you drive a Skoda, apology. I don't mean any disrespect. But, in life, you always be compromising for something. You always be compromising for something else you prefer. Life is a dance between compromises. So what does that mean to me? It means that you will never be able to have everything, because there's no perfect world, there's no perfect person, no perfect relationship, no perfect human, no perfect cars. But you just have to prioritize your own needs relative to the package of the car that is delivered just for you. So comparing the Enyaq to the ID, the ID4, even to the Mustang, the Ford all electric, you realize that it stands its ground. It's a very lovely car to drive, and the MBUX system is superb. Just go and test drive that car. The only concern that I have is because he has a smaller boot space, and at the back, I would have preferred the seat to be raised up a little bit so that it's slightly more comfortable. Now, comparing by the way, the back seat is comfortable, but only that it's a bit lower down. Now, comparing the EQA to EQC, EQA to EQC, this is the EQC, by the way. I've owned this for about 4 months now, and I've loved it. You enjoy it more when you're not thinking about it. You just realize how comfortable, how serene, it makes you feel relaxed. That sensation of relaxation, it's profound, especially when you're going around towns, around cities, around villages. So you feel pampered, and it's just a nice and comfortable place to be. But in my last video, I put my EQC on one side and I put the EQA on the other side, courtesy Mercedes-Benz of Huddersfield, West Yorkshire. By the way, that's the place to be. Give them a ring. I've got a good friend, Craig, which is in charge of the EV department, and is going to help you and answer your questions and give you a great deal for the range of their EVs and even hybrids. So I put both cars side by side and I did some reviews about them. But it's important to understand that they are different cars, 25,000 difference. So the thing is that, the EQC is extremely comfortable. It's a bit bigger, so if you need more room, and it's just £25,000 more expensive. And I don't know whether it's £25,000 better. Of course, it's more reinforced. The comfort level is a lot better, and the cabin is a lot. It's a lot more. It's a little bit more posher, more plush rather. It's posher. But the key question is it worth £25,000 upgrade? So that is something that you're going to be thinking about. Now, don't get me wrong. I've driven the EQA and I've driven the EQC. And I go into the EQA and notice how heavy the EQC is. Even though when you drive the EQC, it just drives normal. It's so powerful, it just glides. But when you get into the EQA, you realize the EQA you can feel that it's a lighter car, even though within its range, it seems heavy. So what I'm saying is that I will still choose the EQC. That is just for my own personal preference. I will still choose the EQC. Why? Because I just feel it suits my lifestyle more, it suits my personality more. With regards to the budget, apologies for these roads, bad roads everywhere these days. The council doesn't have any money to repair roads. So sorry if the camera shake, it's crazy. Trust me, it's not the EQC, it's the road. It doesn't matter what kind of car you brings here, you're driving here. You're going to be bouncing up and down. So what I'm saying is that I'll still choose the EQC, but just because I can afford it. If I can't afford it, and I'll only have to choose between the Enyaq, the ID4, or even the ID3 and the Mercedes EQA, I would be very, very compelled to choose the EQA because of what it stands for. And I've driven it extensively. I like what I see. But it's up to you what you think. I think the most important thing to do is to experience a car yourself. Experience it yourself. Go and get a test drive. And test drive all the cars that you. I think there's a road closure here. I think I might have to go a different way. So go and test drive it yourself. Test drive the EQC. I've had the EQC for about 4 months now, and I'm loving it. It's not a perfect car by any stretch of imagination, but tell me what the perfect car is, because the way we define the car is subjective. It's based on our own subjective evolution and our needs, where we prefer our preferences. So that is something to think about. So regarding the EQC, what I should be comparing the EQC to is a car like Audi e-tron, which is an excellent car. Not perfect, but it's really good. And perhaps the I-Pace. I've test driven the I-Pace. Excellent cars, but they're not just for me. I don't feel as special, as relaxed as I felt when I was in the EQC. When I'm the EQC, I'm right there in the EQC, and I've not still changed my mind. I've had a series of test drives on those cars. So with regards to the EQA, could they have done better? Perhaps they could have done better, because it's just based on the existing platform of the GLA. But it's still a very decent car for the price. It delivers up to 268, and it doesn't chop through its range. The range is quite very, very resilient. It's the EQC. The EQC delivers about 250. I've only done about 280, 270, 280 once, depending on the road, the type of road, and the type of traffic. You might be able to stretch it further. But average is between 230 and 230 and 240. That's the average for a single charge. So which serves my purpose. I would have loved like maybe 600 miles range, which I believe is coming soon. Very, very soon we're going to be having some ridiculous amount of range in some of these EVs. And at that time, you don't have to stop to charge that much, because the charging facilities at the moment, as I've explained in my previous videos, they are not adequate at the moment, not adequate enough. So I'm actually switching. I'm switching cars depending on where I'm traveling to. My work takes me to a few places every month, and depending on the levels of infrastructure in that place, that could determine whether I'm going on my full electric or I'm going on the hybrid. So going to Exeter, some very remote part of Exeter in a couple of weeks' time, I'm going to be going on my hybrid, because I've looked through the charging facilities in that area. Not adequate enough, and I don't have enough time to sit around or looking for chargers. I don't. So because of that, I'm going to be going on the hybrid car. So that is that. So ladies and gentlemen, it's a pleasure sharing with you between the EQA and the EQC, and the EQA and some of the closest rivals, and of course between the EQC and some of the closest rivals of the EQC. So with my verdict, it's a very, very adequate car. Talking about the EQA, concerning the amount of money and what it stands for. Of course, I've done extensive videos on the EQC. I still love it. I still look for opportunities to drive it. It's a fantastic car to drive. But if your need is different, you just have to go for what you feel is right for you, budget-wise, image-wise, practicality-wise, and so on and so forth. So it's Wale Ladipo here. Please subscribe straight away. And if you liked it, like it. And wishing you the very best until the next time that I do another video. You can just leave your comment if you have any comment, and if you want me to talk about any subject within the scope of what I've been talking about, and I'll be obliged to answer your questions. Thank you so much. All the very best. Bye bye.